Have you heard about those lost Beatles photos of their final concert that were discovered recently?
Yes, it's an amazing story.
Right. I mean, just picture this for a second. You were digging through this dusty box of random items at a neighborhood garage sale.
Yeah, just typical weekend stuff.
Exactly. And you pull out this unassuming little strip of photographic negatives, like a contact sheet. You buy it for a few bucks, completely unaware that you are holding a literal missing puzzle piece to music history.
It honestly is wild to think about.
It is a brand new, unseen angle on the final paid public show ever played by John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr.
Yeah, and to understand why this matters, we have to look at the chaotic backdrop of 1966. Any fan knows about the international incidents, right? The backlash from the bigger-than-Jesus, quote, the record bonfires in the American South.
Oh yeah, the protests were everywhere.
Exactly. They were the biggest cultural phenomenon on the planet, but the pressure of that fame was actively destroying them. And it's that daily physical and mental toll that led to a shocking, world-changing decision.
They just couldn't safely tour anymore.
No, they couldn't.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the mechanics of their isolation are just wild. The crowds were so out of control, and the screaming from the fans had reached a point where the band couldn't actually hear the music they were playing on stage.
Yeah, they're completely drowned out by the noise.
Right. So if you were living their daily life on that tour, it would be like, well, being strapped into a speeding roller coaster, but worse. Imagine you are trapped inside a soundproof glass box on that roller coaster.
That sounds absolutely terrifying.
It does. You have tens of thousands of people outside screaming at you, clawing at the glass, but you can't hear them, and you can't even hear yourself.
Yeah, and that breaking point, that definitive line where they just couldn't endure the glass box for another second, it arrived on August 29th, 1966.
At Candlestick Park, right?
Yeah.
In San Francisco.
Exactly. Candlestick Park. This chilly, super windy baseball stadium was the final stop. Walking off that stage meant stopping entirely as a touring act.
Wow. End of an era.
It was. They transitioned into purely studio artists who would lock themselves away to create these revolutionary albums like Sgt. Pepper.
So with death threats hanging over their heads and the music completely drowned out, something obviously had to break. But up on that stage at Candlestick, you have this intense, dramatic irony.
Oh, for sure.
You have 25,000 screaming fans in the stands who think they're just watching another chaotic summer tour stop.
But the band shared a massive, heavy secret. They had already privately decided among themselves that this would be their final live concert.
And the public had absolutely no idea.
Not at all. And the photography published from that era reflects two completely different realities. The newspaper photos from 1966 showed the expected illusion, energetic, smiling mop tops just waving to the crowd.
Contrast that public illusion with what was hiding in this garage sale contact sheet.
Oh.
We were talking about 73 candid black and white images.
Yeah.
And they just show this palpable exhaustion.
Oh, absolutely.
You see these blank stares between songs, heavy sighs, and just a massive collective fatigue. But I do have to push back a little here.
Okay, what do you mean?
Well, is the sheer exhaustion we see in these photos simply because they were standing in freezing, windy weather at Candlestick Park? Or did this camera actually capture the psychological weight of an era ending?
Well, it is a fair question. I mean, they were absolutely miserable in the cold. But look at their body language between the songs.
Right. It is not just shivering.
Exactly. They are entirely disconnected from one another. John Lennon isn't even looking out at the crowd. His eyes are just cast down. The freezing wind was a physical reality, but those blank, distant stares were entirely psychological.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
What's fascinating here is that the lens stripped away the bright Ed Sullivan Show lad personas, right? It revealed four deeply pensive, worn-down men. It essentially captured the exact moment the band began to pull apart.
That raw psychological intimacy is exactly why the physical journey of this contact sheet is so compelling. Let's trace how these incredibly intimate shots ended up in a dusty box.
Yeah, so jump forward to the late 1980s.
Near San Francisco, right?
Right. A local musician and fan named Dave Seabury is hunting for treasures at garage sales, and he spots this contact sheet. He recognizes the band immediately and buys the sheet for just a few dollars.
Best few dollars ever spent.
Oh, definitely. But recognizing the band is one thing. Proving the historical context of a random, unlabeled contact sheet is an entirely different challenge. He had to do his own forensic detective work.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the mechanism of how he proved it is fascinating. Seabury couldn't rely on digital metadata or timestamps.
No, none of that existed back then.
Exactly. He had to look incredibly closely at the tiny details in those 1-inch frames, specifically the collars, the lapels, and the patterns on the shirts worn by Paul McCartney and the rest of the band.
That takes some serious dedication.
It does. He cross-referenced his tiny contact sheet against iconic photos taken by the famous rock photographer Jim Marshall.
Because Jim Marshall was the only official photographer granted backstage access that night, his photos were the definitive historical record of what the band wore at Candlestick Park.
Right. His shots were the baseline.
Exactly. Marshall's images were crystal clear. Seabury literally had to match the exact stripe patterns on Paul McCartney's jacket in his tiny, grainy contact sheet against Marshall's famous high-resolution prints.
Just to prove they were at the exact same venue.
Yes, it was pure visual forensic work.
So verifying the location turned a rare collectible into a verified historical document of their final public show. But it created a massive lingering mystery.
A photographer.
Yes. Jim Marshall was backstage, but Seabury's close-up shots were taken from the crowd. So who actually took them? For years, these images circulated among fans and historians, always labeled simply as photographer unknown.
Until someone bypassed the digital scans and examined the physical prints made from the original negatives, they found a clue hiding in plain sight.
Oh, wow. What was it?
It was a simple ink stamp on the back of the prints that read, "Photo, Eric Weil."
Giving the mystery photographer a name is a great breakthrough, but the context of who this person was changes everything.
Yeah, that stamp solved the mystery, but it brought up a wild point. Eric Weil wasn't a world-famous photographer. He wasn't a press photographer granted special credentials.
So he was just a fan?
Basically, yeah. He was an amateur who somehow snuck a camera into the perfect vantage point. It means the most authentic, raw visual record we have of their final public moment wasn't captured by the press or the record label.
It was captured by a rogue fan in the crowd. A rogue fan managed to document the exhaustion and the dramatic irony that every professional photographer missed. And this isn't just a one-off fluke, Historical treasures are constantly resurfacing in the most unexpected places.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you see this pattern of lost history happening everywhere. For instance, in 2020, Paul McCartney rediscovered a massive collection of his own photographs.
Wait, really? His own photos?
Yeah. We are talking about nearly 1,000 images from the band's first trip to America in 1964.
So they weren't technically lost. They were just forgotten, packed away in his own personal archive.
Yes, and those images were eventually turned into a major touring exhibition and a book titled 1964 Eyes of the Storm. It provided an incredibly rare personal view from inside the bubble at the absolute dawn of Beatlemania.
That is incredible to just find in your own stuff.
It is. You see the sheer wonder and excitement in their faces as they conquer America. It serves as the perfect, bright-eyed contrast to the worn-down men we see in Eric Weil's photos from Candlestick Park just 2 years later.
2 years. That timeline is so short, but the psychological distance between those two sets of photographs is immense.
It is massive. These discoveries, whether they come from a legendary musician's archive or from a fan digging through boxes at a neighborhood garage sale, they keep rewriting and adding new pages to a story society thought was completely finished.
It leaves you wondering, if 50-year-old music history capturing the end of an era was just sitting at a neighborhood garage sale, well, what forgotten history, untold stories, or world-changing documents might be sitting in a cardboard box in your own attic right now?
That is a wild thought to leave on.
Until next time, when you listen,
your mind conducts its own symphony.
Hey, do you like free stuff?
Yeah, of course, especially when it's Beatles stuff.
Well, you're in luck, because our new book, Beatles Rewind, is free today on Amazon and YouTube.
Huh. That massive book we just wrote called Beatles Rewind, Essential Stories of John, Paul, George, and Ringo, and the music that never gets old.
That's the one. We're giving it away today.
Are you crazy? I worked my ass off on that book, and now you're giving it away.
Guilty as charged. So there's 2 ways to get it free. You can download the ebook free from Amazon, or listen to the entire audiobook, all 12 hours, free on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I forgot. Okay, we'll put the links in this video description for the free ebook and audiobook. And or you, listening, if you have a browser handy. For the book, just go to BeatlesRewindBook.com. That will get you to the Amazon book page.
Right. And for the audiobook, you can go to BeatlesAudio.com, and that will get you the YouTube audiobook.
Anything else you want to give away today?
That's it for today.
Oh, okay. Beatles forever.